I'm Larry Barsh, and you are listening to Specifically for Seniors, the podcast for those of us in the Remember When generation. Today's podcast is available wherever you listen to podcasts and in video and audio on Spotify and on the Specifically for Seniors YouTube channel. Our guest on Specifically for Seniors today is Ken Friedman. Ken has competed in the national pickleball circuit for the past 4 years. In 2021, he won 9 consecutive gold medal titles in men's singles in ages 50, 60, and 65 divisions. He also won titles in men's doubles and mixed doubles. Included in his singles titles are the U.S. Open, the National Indoors, and the Nationals at Indian Wells. He also held a pickleball global USA and world ranking of #1 in men's 60 singles for the year 2021. Ken is now a certified pickleball professional and is the teaching pro at several local communities. Welcome to Specifically for Seniors, Ken.
Thanks very much. Nice to be here.
It's good to have you. I'm going to play a short clip, and you can describe it as it's running, okay?
Okay.
Let's give it a go.
This was at the U.S. Open last year in Naples, Florida. Basically, it was just the last point of the match. My opponent hit a ball down the line. I hit a short return. I guessed where he was going to hit his next shot and was able to put the next shot away for the winner.
Oh, congratulations.
We got a few people watching over there. That was the end of the day. So, yeah, that was a good win.
Where was it played?
That was at the East Community Tennis and Pickleball Center in Naples, Florida, where they have 60 designated courts for pickleball.
A few more than we have in our community here.
Yeah. Well, they've actually made it the one of the top pickleball centers in the country, where they just added a new pavilion with covered courts, and they added a few more courts, and they're looking to build even more courts. So it's a big facility.
And you got to stand on the platform to receive your medal?
Yeah. Every tournament has a 3-step podium where the gold medal goes on top, and the bronze goes to the left and the silver goes to the right.
Pretty usual question. How does it feel to get a gold medal?
It's better than losing. I'll tell you that. You don't want to stand there on the sidelines watching everybody else get their medals. So it's a thrill. Having been a tennis pro for years and doing that as a kid, the pickleball has given me an opportunity to go back and relive my childhood and early teen years and in the early 20s. So pickleball has given me that opportunity. It's really a lot of fun.
Any chance we'll see it in the Olympics?
You know what? It's getting to the point where I think it will be. It's being played right now in over 50 countries, and they say you need about 75 or 76 countries for it to make it. So I'm anticipating it's growing ridiculously how popular it's become. So I think within the next 12 to 16 years, I will definitely be in the Olympics. I'm hoping it was.
So what got you into pickleball? Was it just getting a little bit too, should we say, old to play tennis?
No, because I still play tennis. What happened was I actually moved up here, and my wife said, "Oh, look at those miniature tennis courts." And I went over and looked at them and saw it, and saw some people over there, and they looked like they were having a lot of fun. And it was a wiffle ball and a paddle. I said, "Well, I think I can do that." And went over the courts and started playing, and really fell in love with the sport, and saw that it was a very social sport, and you meet a lot of people through it. And you can really go anywhere in the country and get into a game, where unlike tennis, where you have to have a game already set up at a club or whatever. Pickleball is totally opposite. You can go to any park, any club, and put your paddle in and get into a game. And if it's a bad game, you're done in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You get off and you get into a new game, and you meet a lot of people. So it's and then the tournament started a couple years ago, and decided, okay, this sounds like fun. Let's start traveling a little bit. So that's where I've been.
Okay, I'm going to ask you for your advice. For someone just starting to play pickleball, how do you make a choice between the various rackets, shoes, whatever?
Okay, well, the first thing is the shoes are really important. You always want to wear court shoes. You never want to wear running shoes or walking shoes, because the bottom of the shoes are a little bit different on court shoes. So that's number one priority, and that's a safety issue. The number two thing is with the paddle, it's really, there's so many different paddles. When I first started playing, there were like 4 or 5 different paddle companies. Now there's hundreds, and everybody is coming out with a new gimmick. This is a paddle. I'm under contract with Adidas, so I have to show their paddle. Everyone's coming out with new materials every year. What you have to do is you have to find one that really feels good in your hand. There's so many different companies, and each one, some have shorter handles, some have longer handles. Some people hit two-handed backhands. The weight of the paddles are a little bit different. The size of grips a little bit different. So you really just have to find something that's really comfortable in your hand, and experiment and play with a lot of different paddles. A lot of the companies now are offering the idea that you can call up and order 3 or 4 paddles from them. You try them out, you see which one you like, you send the other ones back. So it's the companies are making it much easier to order and use paddles.
And there are 2 different size faces on the paddles as well?
Well, the paddles, the legality is that a paddle cannot be any more than 24 inches in length and width. So they all have to go by those standards. This particular paddle is 16 inches wide, long, and 8 inches wide. So it's 24 inches. It's just the length of the paddles are pretty much the same. Again, you just have to find something that really feels good and experiment. Play with a lot of your friends' paddles and see what feels good. Because everybody wants the newest thing. There's the new technology is carbon fiber. Some put grit on the paddle, and they test when you're in a tournament, they look at your paddle, they test every paddle before you're allowed to go on the court to make sure that there's no advantage that you're getting over somebody else. So they all have to be approved by the Pickleball Association.
So the way to make a choice is by playing with it.
Correct. Yeah, you just have to find it. Again, there's so many different weights on them. There's a lightweight, there's a midweight. You just have to find something that feels really comfortable in your hand. Because again, every company's grip is a little bit different. The length of the grips are a little bit different. You just have to find something that you like and feels comfortable in your hand, and go out and hit with it. Because again, the different surfaces do create different types of ball movement. Some are known for power paddles. If they're a little bit heavier, the lighter paddles are more for spin. So again, if you just have to find something that feels good and to go around your game, because everybody's game is a little bit different. Some are power players, some are very soft players. Some we call dinking players. There's blasters, and there's bangers or dinkers. There's the ones who like to hit the ball hard, and the ones who like to hit the ball soft and just move the ball around quite a bit.
So I imagine over time you get quite a collection of different paddles.
Well, you actually do. You start with something, and then you usually upgrade, because paddles can go anywhere from $50 up to the newest one just came out was $330. So there's all different price range as well. So
for somebody coming from tennis, what's the difference aside from the court size between pickleball and tennis?
Well, in tennis, you have much longer stride strokes. In pickleball, you try to shorten your strokes a little bit, because again, you're using a wiffle ball. In tennis, the tennis ball collapses on your strings, so you can move the ball around by making the ball collapse, and your strings between the felt on the ball and the strings makes the ball compress. Pickleball, that doesn't happen. You're using a hard plastic ball, which is this, which has 40 holes in it. And then you have a hard plastic paddle. So when you hit the ball, it just takes off. So you have to really shorten your swing a little bit. The court sense, usually tennis players usually have a very good court sense of where to be. But unlike tennis, you can't go right up to the net. You have to stand 7 feet behind the net unless the ball bounces in what's called the non-volley zone. So as far as the technique, there's a little bit more net play in pickleball than there is in tennis, because the idea is to get all four players up to the net, and that's when you start what's called dinking, real soft shots until you get an opening, and that's when you try and put the ball away.
But in that non-volley area, the ball has to bounce. You can't.
The ball has to bounce. The ball, you're allowed to go in that non-volley zone when the ball bounces. However, you have to reset your feet and get back out of the non-volley zone, because if they hit a ball at you and you hit it on the fly, then you lose the rally or the point. So you have to be out of that at 7 feet. It's 20 feet wide by 7 feet deep.
The court surface is different in pickleball than tennis as well.
It's really not. The courts they're making now, they're made out of basically two things. They're made out of concrete, or they're made out of asphalt. Tennis courts, the same thing. Usually it's asphalt, and then they put an acrylic paint over the top of it. At the place where we live, we actually have what's called a cushion court, which is an asphalt court that also has 5 layers of rubberized paint, and then also has 3 coats of acrylic paint. And what that does is it softens the bounce a little bit, but it makes it much easier on your feet and your legs. So when you're talking about a 55 and over community, it's much easier on your legs and your knees, because it is cushioned, so it gives a little bit of a give, but it's a very expensive surface to put down, so most places don't do it. But most of the courts now are asphalt. Tennis courts are made out of clay. They're made out of asphalt. They're made out of hard true, which is a crushed gravel. Some people try to play pickleball on hard true. It's very difficult because the ball just doesn't bounce up as high. But for the most part, most courts are asphalt or concrete.
Okay. Can you offer listeners some tips on improving one's offensive game?
Yeah, the thing about pickleball is that if you start out the game and you get the right mechanics and you hold the paddle properly, you're going to be able to play the game relatively quickly. The thing about pickleball is if you do some of the things that you're not supposed to do of holding the paddle incorrectly, it leads to other problems that down the road are going to make it very difficult to be an offensive player. Tennis players usually have a pretty good ability to go right over to pickleball and pick it up very quickly. And usually they have what's called a loop forehand, so they can drive the ball. Most pickleball players have a short backswing and a short follow through. It's a little bit harder to get as much power. But the mechanics of tennis and pickleball are pretty much the same. And if you bend your knees and you follow through properly, the ball's going to go pretty quickly. In pickleball, you want to rely on the other person's ability to hit the ball hard, and you use their power against them. So it's a cat and mouse game when you're playing pickleball. There's a lot of hard hitting, and then you try and soften that up a little bit. But again, you're using a wiffle ball, so it doesn't go like a tennis ball at 120 miles an hour. So it's a little bit different.
And tips on defense.
Defense. The thing about defense is in pickleball, you want to soften your hands. It's like a golfer on the putting green. You want to have soft hands. The harder you hold the paddle, the harder the ball is going to go. So when you're playing a defensive game, you want to loosen the paddle. So if you're holding the paddle if you're holding it like a death grip at number 10, the ball is going to take off on you. So you want to move your hand down to like the gripping it like to a 4 or 5, where you're holding it, but it's barely in your hand. And the idea is that if with soft hands, when the ball hits your paddle, the soft hands takes the speed off of the ball so that you can not hit as hard. So pretty much, if you want to hit hard, you hold the paddle a little tighter. If you want to hit softer, you grip the paddle a little softer.
And pickleball has been billed as a more accessible and less intense game than tennis. but injuries still happen.
Yeah, injuries happen because again, a lot of people don't know how to run properly, and pickleball there is a lot of movement going forward and backward, and the tendency is sometimes to get people if they don't go back properly, they tend to get their feet tangled, and then they fall. Um, Again, one of the things is you need good mechanics and how to run. A good instructor will be able to provide that for you. If you just go out there and you just start swinging and don't know what you're doing, there is a possibility of getting hurt. Tennis, again, is more of a bigger court, so you have more area to run. Pickleball, you're usually playing doubles, except I like to play singles, but you're playing with another partner. So sometimes, if you don't call your shot, if a ball goes down the middle and you both go to swing at it, there's always a possibility you're going to get hit. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. You hear more about Achilles and just some bruises that you fall on your knee but most injuries are really just because of bad footwork. You trip over your shoes.
Okay, one really important question. What makes pickleball the greatest game ever?
I think that what people have found is that because it is such a social game, you could go over the courts and within 30, 40 minutes, you can meet 20 people that you never knew before. And it's strictly because you come off the court and you go into another game, or you go to the park with a player and say, hey, you guys want to play? And you get in the game with them and it's a good game and you keep playing. And then they invite a couple people over and all of a sudden you have 6, 8, 12 people that are out there playing. And it's just become such a social game. When you go to these tournaments, everybody knows everybody. I was just up in New York at the USTA Center where they converted all the tennis courts to pickleball courts. And there were hundreds of people that I've met over the last year or so from tournaments because we travel all over the country playing. 1 week you're in California, the next week you're in Alabama, next week you could be in Atlanta, then you're in New York. So you're just meeting all kinds of people, and everybody is very nice and very cordial and wishes you good luck. And it's a small group of people because there's so many different age groups. So the people that play in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, they all know everybody, and you end up becoming very good friends. You go out for dinner, you hang out. It's a party. It's that's what they televise it as and advertise it as the biggest party on earth. At the U.S. Open, there was in Naples about 3 weeks ago, there were probably 10,000 spectators, and there were 2,200 entries. So a lot of people playing.
And it's down at the high school level now too.
Right. There a lot of the companies are donating equipment and paddles and balls and nets, and they're bringing it into the high schools now. So as an activity, they're even starting to bring it into the prisons. They're just moving it everywhere. It's become very popular, and as people get older, they find that, hey, this is a great activity because you don't have to be in the best shape to play in a decent game. There's so many different levels of players, from beginners to advanced players, and everybody gets a rating, whether it be a 1.5 or a 2 or a 2.5. So you kind of congregate towards the level that you're at, and you can go anywhere, any park in the country now where there's courts, and they're converting tennis courts to pickleball courts because you can get 4 pickleball courts out of 1 tennis court. It's becoming to the point where you can go anywhere in the country now, in the hotels, even the cruise ships now. I mentioned it to a friend of mine that was one of the higher ups of the cruise industry, and I said, you need to convert your basketball court to pickleball courts. And she said, what's pickleball? And I said, go watch it on YouTube. And I got a call from her 2 weeks later that they were putting pickleball on all their cruise ships. So now you go on cruise ships and you can play. You take your paddle with you there. So it's international. It's everywhere.
I assume you recommend lessons for
Yes.
people.
I do, because again, it's very easy to get in some bad habits. And once you get in bad habits, they're hard to break. And again, some people play with, come over from tennis and they use what's called a Western grip. And in pickleball, that grip just doesn't work very well. So you have to change the the way you hold the paddle, again, it's a much smaller grip, so it's and a smaller piece of equipment. So you have to be able to adapt. So lessons are really important, especially when you start, because you don't want to get in bad habits. They're really tough to break. And some people just are adamant they don't want to switch. But their games, when they do switch and they do make a change in their grip, they find that they get much better, much quicker.
You're a pro. Are you available for lessons?
Yeah, I'm currently teaching at one of the facilities I teach at. I teach at some private facilities that don't let outsiders come into, but I am currently the pro at Boca Bridges, and they've allowed me to teach outside people. So I have quite a few of my old clients that were teaching that come over there, and some of the parks were allowing you to teach, but now they've kind of stopped doing that because you were taking up the course of people being able to play on. So really, you need to be able to go to a private facility. So Valencia Cove, we had a pro here for years. He left. They're trying to get another one here. I teach at Valencia Reserve. I teach at Valencia Point. I teach at Venetian Isles. I teach at Stonebridge Country Club. But my main place of lessons is Boca Bridges.
Do you have gear for sale as well?
Yeah, Boca Bridges has it, but usually what happens is I usually let people try a couple different paddles that I have access to, and I mean I can get paddles for people, but I kind of tell them to go to you can go on the internet and order directly from the companies, and they give you the warranties and the guarantees and everything. So you're better off going with going direct.
Okay, what didn't we talk about in pickleball?
We didn't talk about the balls. The balls are different. There's indoor balls and there's outdoor balls. The indoor balls is usually a softer material, and it has only 26 holes in them, and the holes are a little bit bigger. The indoor court facilities play on different types of surfaces, so they use a softer ball. And the courts that they use now on indoors are either a wood floor, like a basketball floor, or they use painted concrete. It's very difficult to play on, and usually you get a lot of glare. The outdoor ball which is like this, has 40 holes in it, and it's made out of a much harder plastic. And there's different types of balls. This happens to be what's called a Franklin X40. So again, X40 is the 40 holes. There's another ball that's a little bit harder than this. That's called a Dura 40. It's a little bit harder. And then they have another ball that's a little bit softer. It's called an Onyx. And that ball is more cushiony. So it's a better ball if you're a beginner, because it doesn't bounce as fast. And it's better to be able to learn with that ball than this ball. This is the ball that they use in tournaments. Franklin usually donates the balls to the tournament, so that way they sell them. But every tournament is allowed to use the ball of their choice. So it's basically it becomes a money issue again. Who's going to donate or give them the best price for the balls? Yeah.
So when you're practicing for a tournament, getting ready for a tournament, you have to practice, I assume, with the ball that they use in the tournament.
Yeah, most of the tournaments use either the Dura ball or the Franklin X40, and they don't use the Onyx ball. The pickleball leagues in Palm Beach County use the Onyx ball because, again, it's an over 55 league, and so it's a little bit slower and for people. So that most of the leagues use the softer Onyx ball.
Ken, this has been great. Okay. I learned a lot. I'm not a pickleball player. I used to play tennis, but this has been really terrific.
Okay, well, again, and most of the tennis players that come over fall in love with it. It's a very addicting sport, and people that have never played a sport go out for the first time and say, you know what, this is really fun, and they laugh and they have a good time. And now what's happening is people are bringing food over, so you play, and then you have an event afterwards, and you raffle off some prizes, and it's become it's become a great sport for over 55 and over, which is when it really started at. And because it was invented by some guys in Washington, where they actually had a badminton net and a couple wooden paddles and a wiffle ball, and they decided to just see what they keep their kids occupied while they were on vacation. And it's evolved into over 5 million people playing now, and it's become a big business. But it's the average age now it's gone down to 42 years old. So you go to these tournaments and you're seeing these young kids playing that are the #1 woman player in the world is from Delray Beach. Her name is Annalie Waters. She's 15 years old. She's a beast on the court. And they're seeing a lot of young people playing now that were either ex-tennis pros and couldn't make it on the pro tennis circuit and are switching over. And you're going to see a lot more college tennis players switching over to play. And it's become a game for youngsters as well as old people. So it's a great sport. I invite anybody that hasn't tried it to go out and do it, because you'll have a lot of fun and meet a lot of great people and give you an activity that you get some great cardio. You sweat a little bit and you have a good time. So it's a great sport.
Hey, Ken, thanks for coming on. It's been terrific.
My pleasure.
Hope to meet you in person sometime.
Yeah, one of these days, and maybe we'll see you on the pickleball course.
Take care. You never can tell.
Okay.
Thanks, Ken.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you found this podcast interesting, fun, or helpful, we'd appreciate it if you tell your friends and family, and click on the follow or subscribe button wherever you listen to podcasts. Until next time, I'm Larry Barsh, and you've been listening to Specifically for Seniors.